Kia ora koutou, and thank you, Jordan, for the lovely welcome. I'm going to start by sharing my presentation. This is the moment where you do need the virtual clap to make sure it all works. So far, so good. Hopefully you're all seeing that correctly. As has been mentioned, I'm Melissa, the Manager of Disability Information and Support here at the University of Otago. A position that I have been in for approximately 9 years now. I have been with the service for a whole 21 years. So in terms of today, I've titled the session Fostering an Inclusive Environment, Respecting Students' Disability Disclosures and the Importance of Keeping Good Data. So understanding disability disclosures, what do we mean? So, in simplistic terms, we define a disability disclosure as the act of sharing information about one's disability. So, disclosure is actually a personal choice. Disclosures should not be mandatory and they should not be taken for granted. A disability disclosure is a personal choice, and often people will disclose or share information about their disability, impairment, medical condition if they feel the environment feels safe and right to do so. So, people will identify as having a diverse range of disabilities, perspectives, and experiences, but we also need to be aware that these diverse range of disabilities and perspectives, we cannot cookie cutter academic learning support based on those. So the benefits of respecting disability disclosures. We know from experience that if the environment is supportive and encouraging, students will often feel comfortable sharing a little of their story and information about themselves, and possibly they may want to share details of their disability, impairment, or medical condition. If students feel comfortable disclosing, it does foster trust and collaboration between students and staff, and also enables educators and support staff to provide appropriate accommodations and support services. In turn, this can lead to a really positive learning environment. And little quote that I have on the screen on the PowerPoint says, "Without trust, we don't truly collaborate, we merely coordinate, or at best, we cooperate. It is trust that transforms a group of people into a team." And I think that's really, really powerful because often people are sharing really personal information about themselves and they're not quite sure what is going to be done with that information or whether it will be used against them. So, obviously, there are legal and ethical considerations, and I'm not going to delve too deep into these, but I've just popped a few on my PowerPoint: Human Rights Act, Bill of Rights Act, Health and Disability, Commissioners' Disability Rights, the Privacy Act, and the Convention of Rights of People with Disabilities. So there are many pieces of legislation that protect people with disabilities and particularly disability disclosures, but like I've said, I'm not going to go too far into those today. The New Zealand Privacy Act explains that as a general rule, health information should not be disclosed to other people unless the individual who disclosed has authorised that disclosure. So the exception to the rule is obviously when the disclosure will prevent a serious or imminent threat to public health or safety or to the life of the individual concerned. And the Health and the Disability Commissioner Act, the aim of this act is to promote and protect the rights of health and disability service consumers. Under the Code of Rights, all people have the right to respect dignity. Sorry, I just saw your question pop up, Steve. I'm happy to share if you need any information at the end. Under the Code of Rights, all people using a health or disability service have the right to respect disability, dignity, and independence, fair treatment, and not discrimination, service of a proper standard, effective communication, and be fully informed and give informed consent. They support and choose and have the right to complain. So, under the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the Convention is the first United Nations human rights treaty of the 21st century. It does not create new rights for people with disabilities, just to put that out there. Instead, it builds on the conventional understandings of what is required to implement existing human rights as they relate to disabled people. In a perfect world, the Declaration of Human Rights would be enough to protect everyone, but as we well know, human rights are merely words on paper unless they're enacted by those people who care. So the role of educators, as previously mentioned, it's important to create that supportive environment. It's also important to proactively communicate with students, whether it's a welcome to the paper email, an email advising that teaching staff are aware a student hasn't submitted a piece of work, or encouraging them to get in touch if they have any issues. But we also hope that educators will avail themselves to training opportunities that enhance their understanding of inclusion. And I guess now would be a really appropriate time to do a wee plug for Achieve's e-learning modules. So Disability Confidence 101, tertiary education and training educators, and tertiary education and training support staff. In terms of the data aspect, Achieve can also track numbers of staff who have engaged in the training and the numbers of people who have completed the training modules. So we're seeing greater uptake in those. So the importance of keeping good data, now that we've covered off the importance of respecting disclosures and how we ensure privacy, what do we actually mean by good data? So for me, good data is accurate, it's up to date, and provides me with the relevant information that I need to run a responsive student support service. Accurate data supports the provision of appropriate accommodations, and it also allows us to track students' progress by assessing the effectiveness of accommodations. Data allows us to shine a light on areas where additional resource is required as well, and I'll touch a little bit on that a little later. So best practices in terms of data collection. Standardized processes in collecting data. Why do we need to collect data, and what is the purpose of collection? At Otago, we ask students some really specific questions at the time of enrolment, and this then enables us to run a report of every student who is identified as having a disability, impairment, or medical condition that affects their study. We then make contact with students with an email of introduction about our service, but we also include information about all of the other support services on campus. We're very clear as to who has access to the information, and mention that we will not share information with teaching staff unless we've been given express permission to do so. So in the event there is a health and safety concern, we'll work with a student to discuss what information they would like shared, and we respect that the detail may change over time and with different academic staff members. So students are really in the driver's seat of their own education. So in terms of some examples, so at Disability Information and Support, what I know in my 21 years of working here is that the number of students accessing our service continues to rise. I can also look back on historical data and see that there's only been 1 year in the 30-year history of our service where the student numbers decreased, and that was by 1 student. So on a monthly basis, I ask my admin team to pull reports and compile data from the reports. And a brief example is here. So you can see learning support that has been put in place for our peer note taking service. Do a comparison on the year to date. So I can see that there's been a 0.79% decrease in students requesting peer notes. But what I can see is the students receiving peer notes has increased. I can see the subjects the peer notes have been taken in. Again, that's been a slight decrease. But then when I look ahead at internally organised alternative exam arrangements, I can see the number of exam arrangements. So in 2022, there was 1,026, and in 2023, there was 1,430. So I can see that's a 36% increase, and students receiving the arrangements, that's a 34% increase. So we have a team of 2 staff members working in that space. So for me, any area that looks like there's a 34% increase, I'm also very acutely aware quality of service and well-being of my team. So I'll use this data to actually write a wee report to my manager and highlight some of the challenges that we face. You'll see in terms of centrally administered exam arrangements. There's been an increase there, and our latest data shows that we're now almost at 4,200 alternative exam arrangements. And that's again around 35% of an increase compared with previous year. So we can use our data to support our cause. So writing a business case for additional resources, if you can delve back into your archives and show and track your examples accordingly, then it can be a good measure for getting some more support. And I have to say, at Otago, we're really, really fortunate to have such a responsive senior leadership team. I've written numerous reports and requests for additional assistance, and I've never had one declined. So again, I feel very fortunate as a manager to have the support of the senior leadership team. On an annual basis, we run more in-depth reporting, and I've just used a couple of tables today from our annual report. We also track the percentage of exams sat, the exams passed, the qualifications completed. We can also look at comparisons too. So for example, not all students with just disabilities choose to access our service, and that's totally fine. We respect that. But what we do know is that students who have a disability and engage with our service actually pass at higher rates than those who don't. So last year, the percentage difference was around 5%. So that is significant. Reporting for me is always reviewed alongside our student satisfaction survey. And we've just closed off our student satisfaction survey, and we go through all of the different types of supports we offer. So you can see we had electronic and dedicated notes. Sorry, it's very small. I can increase that for you. Maybe not right now. And then we haven't had any sign language interpreters over the last 2 years. This year we have. We can look at the breakdown of hours of academic learning support. So for peer note taking, I can see we're putting in a large number of hours of academic learning support. But what I want to also measure is the student satisfaction with that particular support service. So we asked some detailed questions in our student satisfaction survey, and this year I'm pleased to say that we've tracked really, really highly in terms of that satisfaction. Students who have accessed disability information and support have given us an overall rating of 92%. And for me, that's wonderful, but there's also 7%, 8% we can actually look at and what we can do better. So in terms of technology and data management, they play a huge part in our success, and we're very fortunate at Otago to have strategy, analytics and reporting office to assist us. So we can run many reports and pull out lots of different statistics. But the way we manage the data is really important to us as well. So we have a standalone custom built database, so every student interaction can go into that database, and we can pull full contact history if we need to for a student. We can look at their papers, we can look at how they're tracking, we can look at the papers they've accessed support for and ones they maybe haven't accessed support for. We can delve right down into disability impairment types they may have identified with. We can see how many students are studying who have multiple impairments, some studying with 3 to 4 impairments. We can look at the comparison between those who have enrolled full-time, limited full-time, part-time, those who are studying on other parts of the campus, so whether it be Invercargill, Wellington, Auckland, Christchurch. We can also look at the students who are working with our Māori Centre, so Te Huka Mātaraka, and the students who are working collaboratively between both. We can look at the pass rates of our Pacifica students and the supports that we've implemented as opposed to the Pacific Island Centres implemented, and where people feel most comfortable accessing their support. Strategy, analytics and reporting. We have a lot of reports that we can run for our own reporting. We also have a number of reports that we can target for our equity report that goes to the Tertiary Education Commission, and then there's the university's annual report as well. So there are many mechanisms, there are many pieces of data that we collect, and students are really aware of what we're collecting and what we're using that for. Really student-centric in terms of the work that we do, very responsive to student need. And I'm aware my timer has just gone off. I'm not going to make you go right back to the beginning. I have covered off all of the main things that I wanted to cover off, but yeah, just highlighting the importance of using that the data for good, and making sure that you can draw on the data you need to run a responsive service. I guess, as I've mentioned, this year in February, I thought our calendars are booking up quite quickly. So looking at initial data from the enrolment form, you could see there was a marginal increase. At its peak this year, our service tracked at 22% of an increase compared with previous years. So obviously being really aware as manager of my team's wellbeing, making sure that they had good downtime as well, because I mean, let's face it, in a helping profession, you cannot do your best work if you're working from an empty cup. So we did make a case to get an additional student advisor, and that was accepted by our senior leadership team. That person is now in post, and we can see that throughout the year we've tracked steadily, now at 12.5% of an increase. So that was despite the main university enrolment having a slight dip in enrolments. So I am going to leave that there, and you're welcome to ask questions at the end.
Well, ka nui te mihi ki a koe, Melissa. Thank you so much for sharing, for your wonderful presentation. Yeah, my real takeaway is around that importance of data for showcasing and pushing for positive change, and also the importance of getting leadership on board and having that support from the top. Yeah, so awesome to have your whakaaro. And glad you're able to make it back onto our session as well and finish off. I think representative of technology can be difficult sometimes, but we continue to learn and grow and get better. So kia ora to you, Melissa.
Kia ora.